They thought he was weak because he said nothing. They mocked his silence. They laughed at his calm. But what they didn't see was the war he was winning in the dark. In a world that worships noise, the man who stays quiet becomes a storm no one is ready for. He doesn't shout, he doesn't explain, he just watches. And when the moment is right, he strikes, silently, flawlessly, permanently. This is not just silence, this is domination. Welcome to the art of winning without saying a word. They say the world belongs to the loud, to those who shout the loudest, post the fastest, and never stop talking. But history disagrees. The ones who truly changed the world spoke little, moved silently, and when they finally acted, the world was never the same again. Silence is not weakness, it's not hesitation, it's not fear. It is the deepest form of power, because only those who are truly in control can afford not to speak. Look at the world today. Everyone is in a rush to be seen, to be heard, to be validated. They're dancing for likes, shouting for attention, bleeding for approval, and calling it ambition. But the man who masters silence, he doesn't chase attention, he commands it without saying a word. The lion doesn't roar before the hunt. He walks slowly, calmly. But when the time comes, he strikes with such force that the jungle itself bows. This is the art of silence. It's not about muting your voice, it's about mastering your presence. Because presence isn't volume, it's certainty. It's the quiet fire behind your eyes that tells the world, I don't need your permission. I'm already on my way. The men who shaped the world never wasted their time in arguments. They built, they suffered, they endured, and they let their results speak volumes that no voice ever could. Thomas Edison didn't run around asking for approval. He failed 1,000 times in the dark, but when the light came on, the whole world noticed. Abraham Lincoln didn't scream over his enemies. He stood still in storms, bled quietly through battles, and when he spoke, history listened. Walt Disney was called delusional. He was bankrupt, laughed at, dismissed. But he didn't argue. He drew. He dreamed. He desired. And in that sacred silence, he built an empire that outlived every critic. Because silence is where creation begins. Noise is reactive. Silence is intentional. Noise tries to prove. Silence prepares to dominate. Most people confuse silence with doing nothing. But in truth, silence is doing everything without letting the world watch. They think you're quiet because you have no answers, but you're quiet because you're building better questions. They think you're stuck because you stopped speaking, but you stopped speaking because you started listening to yourself, to your purpose, to the whisper that only comes when the world shuts up. Because that's where real power lives, in the invisible, in the unseen, in the unheard. And the man who can stay silent while being doubted, that man becomes unstoppable. The world will tempt you to respond. It will poke at your ego, pull at your pride, and whisper lies in your ear, telling you that if you don't speak, you'll be forgotten. But let them forget you, because one day they won't remember what you said, they'll remember what you became. In silence, you are sharpening your sword. Every moment you don't react, you are gaining control. Control over your emotions, control over your time, control over your destiny. They mock the man who says nothing, but fear the one who says nothing and still moves. You don't need to explain your dreams. You don't need to post your every move. You don't need to prove anything to those who were never meant to understand you. Let the world wonder. Let them assume. Let them talk. Because while they are playing checkers in the comments, you are playing chess in your mind. This silence you're walking in, it's not absence, it's preparation, it's focus, it's the invisible alignment of power and purpose. And when that alignment completes, the shift will be felt. You'll walk into a room and not say a word, and still the room will turn. Not because you demanded it, but because your silence carries a frequency louder than any noise they've ever heard. The strong move in silence, the disciplined build without distraction. The wise do not broadcast their evolution. They reveal it when it's already irreversible. Muhammad Ali trained in silence. Hours of sweat, pain, repetition. No crowds, no cameras, no cheering. But when he entered the ring, the world watched. That's how legacy is built. Not in the moment of glory, but in the forgotten silence that preceded it. You see, there's a reason most never make it. Because they're too loud too soon. They speak before they're ready. They react before they understand. They spend more energy being seen than becoming something worth seeing. But not you, because you've chosen a different path. The path of the few, the path of the focused, the path of the silent. And that silence, it's sacred. It's where you meet your real self, the one not shaped by followers, trends, or opinions. The one that's been buried beneath the noise of everyone else's expectations. This version of you doesn't speak unless it's necessary. It doesn't argue. It acts. It doesn't rush. It prepares. It doesn't need to be liked. It needs to be legendary. And legends, they don't compete for attention. They command it. Because when you are building something eternal, you don't have time to explain it to people who think in temporary terms. You are not chasing moments. You are creating momentum. And momentum is built in silence. Brick by brick, breath by breath, hour by invisible hour. So let the world keep talking. Let them measure success by noise. Let them confuse attention with achievement. You are listening to the whisper, the one that says keep going, the one that says don't break, the one that says they'll see soon enough, and they will. Not because you told them, but because you showed them. And when you finally step into the light, they will call it overnight. But you'll know it was built in silence. There's something divine about stillness, something terrifying to those who don't understand it. Because in a world where everyone's voice is screaming over the next, your silence becomes an act of rebellion. You don't flinch, you don't panic, you don't defend, because you don't need to. You've already made peace with who you are becoming, and peace is louder than any argument. While others perform for the crowd, you're performing in private. While they collect applause, you collect mastery. While they chase trends, you build timelessness. That's why you don't move fast, you move deep, because speed means nothing if you're running in the wrong direction. And clarity only comes in silence. It is in the quiet that you finally hear the voice within, the voice that says you were made for more. You are not like them. You are here to build something that will outlive the noise. That voice is not loud, it's not flashy, but it's persistent. It comes when the world sleeps. It speaks when you're alone, and it reminds you of your calling every time you're tempted to settle. This is why silence is so powerful, because it reconnects you to the signal that matters, your vision. Not the vision the world gave you, but the one born inside you before the world told you who to be. You weren't made to shout your way through life. You were made to build, to rise, to lead, without begging to be seen. Because those who beg for the spotlight often crumble beneath it. But you've already been through the fire. You've already faced yourself in the mirror. You've already walked through your own private hell, and you did it quietly. No posts, no sympathy, no applause. And that's what makes you dangerous. You've built strength in the silence where most would have screamed. You've stayed grounded in storms that would have broken others. You've practiced presence in a world addicted to escape. And now you're becoming untouchable, because the man who can stay centered while the world spins, that man becomes a force that cannot be stopped. Elon Musk once said, I could either watch it happen or be part of it. But what he didn't add was that before he became part of it, he spent years in silence, reading, thinking, working. When the world laughed at his visions, he didn't laugh back. He built back. Because visionaries don't waste time convincing others. They spend their time creating what others will one day understand. That's your path, the silent one, the sacred one. And yes, it will be lonely. Yes, you will be misunderstood. Yes, you will lose people who needed your noise more than your truth. But that's the cost of mastery. That's the price of peace. That's the weight of purpose. Because you are not built for the crowd. You were built for the crown. And crowns are heavy, but so are regrets. So choose the weight that builds you, not the one that breaks you. Let others drown in noise. You breathe in silence. Because it is in that breath, in that stillness, in that divine pause between reaction and response, where your greatness takes shape. Don't rush it. Don't explain it. Don't ruin it by trying to be understood. Just trust the process. Trust the silence, because silence is the soil where destiny grows. They won't understand what you're doing. They'll say you've gone quiet. They'll wonder if you've given up. They'll whisper that you've lost your way. Let them, because what they call silence is transformation. You are not the same person anymore. You are not chasing applause. You are chasing alignment. Every day, brick by invisible brick, you're building the foundation that no storm can break. You no longer move from emotion, you move from intention. You don't speak to be heard, you speak when it counts. That's why they don't get you, because they're addicted to urgency, and you've become addicted to clarity. This is what separates leaders from followers, masters from mimics, creators from consumers. Noise is always in a hurry, but silence is patient. Patience is power in disguise, because patience without purpose is waiting. But patience with purpose, that's strategy, and your silence is strategic. You're not lost, you're not stuck, you're becoming. Think of the seed buried underground. It is not dead, it is hidden. It is not silent because it's finished. It is silent because it's preparing to break through the earth. That seed fights battles no one sees, in the dark, under pressure, without an audience. And when it finally rises, it doesn't need to announce itself. The bloom says it all. That's you, right now, underneath the noise, beneath the surface, becoming something unstoppable. You are the storm gathering at the edge of the sky. The wave pulling back before it hits the shore, the fire simmering beneath the ashes, and when you rise, the world will not be ready. But don't rise for revenge. Don't rise to prove them wrong. Rise because it's time. Rise because the silence has done its work, because your roots are deep enough now, because your mind is sharp enough now, because your heart beats with purpose now. You didn't just survive the silence. You mastered it, and mastery changes you.
It turns pain into precision. It turns solitude into strength. It turns doubt into discipline.
You no longer react to the world. You respond with calculated power. You no longer seek permission. You give yourself the command. You no longer try to be impressive. You become undeniable. And when that happens, you no longer speak just to be heard. You speak to shift atmospheres. Because silence has taught you the one thing the noisy never learn. Power is not in how loud you speak. It's in how deeply you've listened to the pain, to the lessons, to the stillness, to the call of your own becoming. And now that you've heard it, nothing else sounds the same. So walk with that power. Walk like someone who's held fire in his hands and didn't flinch. Walk like someone who's been tested by the void and came out with vision. You're no longer chasing destiny, you are living it. And silence was your initiation. You see, there's a kind of presence that silence builds. A presence that cannot be taught, cannot be faked, cannot be bought. It's the presence of a man who doesn't need to prove anything because he has already proven it to himself. That presence doesn't come from noise. It comes from nights you didn't sleep, from days you showed up when no one noticed, from hours you bled in silence just to keep moving forward. It comes from discipline, from choosing vision over comfort, from choosing growth over gossip, from choosing purpose over popularity. And every time you said nothing, when they attacked, doubted, mocked, misunderstood, every time you held your fire, you were building that presence. That stillness, that edge, because real strength is restraint. It's knowing you could tear it all down, but choosing to build anyway. It's having the words to destroy, but choosing silence that elevates. The kings of history, the real ones, they didn't need to speak often. When they did, kingdoms moved, because their silence had weight. It carried the pressure of all the moments they chose discipline over drama. Silence teaches you timing, and timing is everything, because you can say the right thing at the wrong time and lose the war. But when you wait, when you study the room, study the energy, watch the game play out without jumping in too soon, then you strike. And when you strike with silence behind you, with patience behind you, with purpose behind you, no one sees it coming. Because silence isn't stillness, it's stealth. And stealth isn't weakness, it's warfare. In this life, people will try to pull you into their chaos. They'll try to poke you with doubt, trigger you with comparison, drain you with endless noise. But remember this, if they can pull you out of your silence, they can pull you out of your power. So don't flinch, don't reply, don't explain. You don't owe them anything. Not your story, not your progress, not your truth. You only owe one thing, the fulfillment of your calling. And your calling doesn't speak in hashtags. It speaks in commitment. It speaks in sacrifice. It speaks in every quiet morning you rise to grind while others sleep, wrapped in distractions. That's why the most dangerous man in the room is the one watching everything and saying nothing. Because he's not distracted by approval. He's devoted to the outcome. And when that outcome arrives, when the seeds you planted in silence explode into legacy, the world will ask where you came from. And you'll smile because you never left. You were just building quietly, mastering privately, becoming silently. And now they hear you, not because you shouted, but because you showed up different. More grounded, more focused, more complete. You didn't ask for the crown, you built the throne. And now you sit in silence while the world makes noise about your name. And now that you've arrived, now that the silence has built the foundation, forged the steel within you, carved out the clarity and conviction most will never taste, now you understand what few ever do. That power is not about speaking first. It's about speaking last. You are not here to impress. You are here to impact. And real impact doesn't beg for attention. It demands alignment. You don't need the spotlight anymore. You became the source of light. And that light doesn't flicker. It doesn't waver. Because it was born in the fire of your silence. Every insult that didn't break you was a sharpening stone. Every delay that tested your patience was divine training. Every betrayal you endured in silence was preparation for your reign. They will say you changed, and you did, but not because you spoke louder, because you moved deeper, not because you shouted your plans, but because you executed them without hesitation, without distraction, without noise. This is your rebirth. The old you needed attention, the old you wanted to be seen, the old you questioned your value when others didn't clap. But that version of you, he's gone. Buried in the silence that built the one standing here today. The one who doesn't run from solitude. He runs toward it. The one who doesn't chase crowds. He builds empires. The one who doesn't talk about transformation. He becomes it. And now, you no longer wait for the world to understand you. You understand yourself, and that's more than enough. You no longer flinch when you're doubted. You smile because you know what they don't. That silence is a storm waiting to strike. That stillness is not the absence of power. It is focused, directed, divine control. And when you move, the world will feel it. Not because you made noise, but because you built so silently, so relentlessly, so faithfully, that your results became thunder. You are no longer the man who explains himself. You are the man who shows what's possible. You are no longer the voice in the crowd. You are the force that shakes the ground beneath it. You are the silence that wins, the calm before the quake, the architect of the unseen empire. You've mastered the one skill they never taught in school, never celebrated in culture, never rewarded on social media, the art of silence. And because of that, you are unstoppable. You've proven that strength is not how loud you shout. It's how long you can move without being seen. That belief is not how fast you answer critics. It's how boldly you act without needing applause. That purpose is not a performance. It's a path. Walked quietly, deliberately, and without apology. So now, let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them wonder where you went. Because when you return, you will not return as the same man. You will return with fire in your eyes, conviction in your breath, and silence in your step. And they will feel it. They will feel all of it. Your silence wasn't retreat. It was resurrection. And the man who returns from silence is the most dangerous of them all. If you felt this in your soul, then don't say anything. Just move. But before you disappear into your grind, subscribe to this channel because this space is not for everyone. It's for the focused, the quiet, the chosen. And if that's you, welcome home. Now go build in silence and let the world hear the sound of your success.